Hey everybody, welcome back to Old Timer Noob plays GMT's Panzer Eastern Front Combat. Today I'll be continuing on with Scenario 4, Village Part 2, and I'll be starting on turn number 8. Before I do that though, I wanted to make a couple of comments. Really just statements of opinion more than anything else. Not intended to be words from on high or the Sermon from the Mount or anything of that nature. In all the games that I've tried playing, going all the way back to Tactics 2 and the original squad leader, I've always found that there's always something in the rules that's a little ambiguous. And that's normal. That's not going to change. I'm not faulting anybody or criticizing anybody. That's just the way that it is. Right? A lot of times just reading something, you lose the meaning of it or the context of it because you don't hear the tone or how it's phrased or how it's spoken with the punctuation that's intended. So I like that I can come on here and put my video on here and I get feedback from viewers and it helps me understand the rules. And then for those of you who are experienced gamers and leave me comments, or if you're the designer and you leave me a comment, then that really helps clarify what it is that confuses me. As an example of that is this fire priority thing that I mentioned a couple times over several videos. And I guess I was not quite totally confused, but I was somewhat confused, even after I got some explanation from some veteran players. But what really threw me off was just the simple meaning of this word it. Now, I don't want to be like Bill Clinton. It depends on what the definition of is, or whatever it was that he said, but it takes on a whole different meaning depending on whether you're talking about the attacking unit or the unit receiving the fire. So if you misinterpret the meaning of it, then that makes the rule ambiguous. Now, when somebody points it out, of course, it's clear as day, but I'm just saying there could be some ambiguity even when the rule is written relatively clearly. So, why do I bring that up? Because a question came up in my last gameplay about this rule turning. Now, fortunately, the question that I had was answered, so it's not a question anymore. I understood what the problem was, and it's been explained to me, and now I understand it. But I turned to this rule in general because as I was going on the forums and looking at the comments, and this is going back to last year, because I remember I went back last year and asked the question about the turn costs. And I wasn't sure if the turn costs applied for every turn after the first 60 degrees or just that cost no matter how many hexes you turn. Well, I went on Board Game Geek and I got an answer from the designer. Actually, from the designer of Panzer North Africa, Fernando Solar Ramos. So he answered that question for me. All right. Of course, the debate on that was going back and forth about how many times you can turn and how much it costs and blah, 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 blah. But then in this most recent gameplay that I had, the question came up about the free hexite turn. When does that apply, right? I read it as it's one free hexite turn for each hex that you occupy or enter. That means you get one free turn per hex. But looking on the game forums, it appears that some people interpret that to mean you get one free hex per movement phase. And it doesn't say that in here anywhere. So I really don't understand where that's coming from. Although some people point to this, where it says this could be at the beginning of a move, during a move, or at the very end of a move. Now that doesn't say anything about that you get one free hexide per movement phase. All right, that just means that if I have a unit and I'm going to move him, I can turn him right now and then move, or I can move him, turn him, and continue to move him, or I can move him to his final hex and turn him when I get there. That's what I get out of this last sentence. Right? So there's some ambiguity where really the way this is written doesn't provide any ambiguity. It's pretty clear. It says vehicles receive one free hexite turn for each hex they occupy or enter. Period. No ambiguity. Now, this is my opinion. I'm not an expert. on anything. Certainly not an expert on this game, and I'm not an expert on the rules. But that's my opinion, my interpretation of this rule, and that's how I'm going to play it. And actually, I take that back. I'm an expert at some things, but nothing that applies to what we're talking about. So we'll leave it at that. Our turn starts, as always, with the spotting phase. Let me start over here with these guys. Let's see who the Germans can see. Now, this damaged Panzer 4H, I'm pretty sure he can see these guys in the scrub. I'll check it just to see. Maybe he can't, but because of fire priority rules, he's not going to be shooting at them anyway. He's going to be shooting at the closest enemy vehicle unit, which is going to be somebody over here. But we'll go ahead and check just to go through the mechanics of it. So we have a unit that's going to be on the small column. He's in light cover. He's in scrub. It's -1. He does have a spot fire marker on him. That's +3. A net +2 so far. So that means he could actually be seen at a range of 20 hexes, and he's at a range of 18. Interestingly here, the line of sight check here goes through the brew up smoke, which does not affect spotting, but we know it does affect combat. And if we had indirect fire being called, it would affect the observer. He would be hindered. So if that comes up in play, I'll go through that rule. But it doesn't affect the spotting here. Okay, and then we know he can see these guys. They've been firing at each other. And I don't know why I didn't notice before. Maybe it's just a function of the resolution now that I've changed it. But when I'm looking at this, let me see if I can make this. When I'm looking at this, it doesn't look like the line of sight is obstructed by this level 2 hill. It looks like it barely touches that corner. I might have to zoom in closer. Yeah, that doesn't look like it passes through that. It well, obviously doesn't go down the hex side here, but it just barely, if at all, nicks that corner. So I don't think this line of sight is obstructed. I'm not sure why I didn't notice that in prior turns, but as it sits right now, it looks like these T-34s and this, what is this, Panzer 4H, they can see each other. They're at the same level. They're both on level 1 hill. We do have brew up smoke, but again, that doesn't affect spotting. And then we have our Stug on the hill over here. You can see them, but he can't see those T-34s. Can't see our infantry. And then we have our Panzer 4Hs, and I'm thinking maybe I made a mistake moving them before because obviously these T-34s down here have line of sight. What happened there? As well as this group of tanks here. All right, these tanks don't have line of sight to any of our armor or to the mortar section. I don't think they can see our infantry. Let's check and see. So what's our distance here? Seven. All right, they're in heavy cover for spotting purposes, -3. The squad has a spot fire, which is +3, so that's 0. They're in full cover, -2. So they would have to be 3 hexes away. So they can't see the infantry. Can the infantry see them? Well, the tanks are not in any cover. They do have a spot fire indicator, that's +3. And the spotting units are in full cover, that's -4, so that's a -1. 10, so they can be seen in a range of 10, and they're only at 7, so the infantry squad, the full squad, can see the tank. Now for the half squad, they have to subtract an additional 2 because they're suppressed. They would have to be 3 hexes away, so the half squad cannot see the tanks, but the full squad can. The tanks can't see either one of them. Okay, let's move over here. We'll start with the German half-track, see if he can spot these Soviets in the building hex over here. Again, we have the full squad with a spot fire and the half squad with a spot move indicator. They're in a wooden building. They're in the buildings, which is considered heavy for spotting. So let's see what we have. -3, we'll do the full squad first. With a spot fire +3, that's a 0. They're in full cover -2. So that's going to be here. The half track would have to be 3 hexes away. And he is, so he can see the full squad. Can he see the half squad? Heavy cover -3, spot move +2, that's a -1. Additional -2, it's -3. So he would have to be 1 hex away in order to see the half squad. All right, how about the German infantry here? Can they see the Soviets? Heavy cover, we'll do the full squad first. Spot fire +3, so that's 0. Target in full cover -2. Full cover spotting -4, so that's -6. So no. They can't see the full squad. They can't see the half squad either. So the half track can see the full squad so far. For this half track, it'll be the same. He's a hex closer, so he can see the full squad as well, but he can't see the half squad because he would have to be in this hex, 1 hex away. These German infantry, all the parameters are going to be the same for them as for this German infantry, so they can't see either one of these infantry units either. All right, so I think I can remove the spot move counter from this half squad. They can't be seen by anybody. All right, for our Soviet squads, let's do the unsuppressed full squad. Can they see the half track? The half track is in light cover. He's in the alley, -1. He has a spot move counter, +2, so that's a +1. Full cover spotting -4, so that's a -3 total. 1, 2, 3. So he can be seen. He's only 3 hexes away. So the full squad can see him. The half squad cannot because he's suppressed. So he would be an additional -2. Okay. And we know that our full squad can see this half track here because he fired at him last turn. I don't think the half squad can see the half track. -1. Spot move. Total +1 so far. Suppress spotting -2. That's a net -1. Full cover spotting. Now net -5. So no, he can't see the half track. Can't see them either. So it's just our full squad here that can see this half track and that half track. And the half tracks can see him as well. None of the infantry can see each other. All right, I think that covers all the spotting. The next step will be the command phase. First, we have to determine available commands. Now, both sides are down to 11 combat units. I've been keeping track over here. So we have 11 combat units apiece. However, this time around it's going to be a little bit different because I was reading through the rules again. And I was reminded of this. Determining available commands. Each formation's force grade, along with its current number of active units, is used to determine the number of available commands. All combat units, including damaged vehicles and vehicle units with track hits, are counted as active units, which we know that. We've been doing that. And then it says, unarmed units, like trucks and prime movers, are not active unless they're within the command range of a combat unit from the same formation. If I look over here at this truck, I see that he is within command range of this mortar section, which is from the same formation. So he would be considered an active unit, if I'm reading this correctly. So the Soviets would have 12 active units to the Germans 11. Now these guys over here wouldn't be considered active because they're not within command range of their units they were transporting. But if all three of these trucks were over here, there would be an additional 2 active units because they'd both be, or 2 of them would be within command range of the infantry squads. And don't forget the command range is found over here on the available commands table. Everybody's seasoned, so it's 1 hex. Not to be confused with command span, which is related to our headquarters unit. So the Soviets with 12 active units would get 6 plus 1. They would get 7 commands. And the Germans with only 11 would get, well, they only get 6. But remember that their command tank was eliminated. So out of those 6 commands, only 3 can be move or short halt commands. So let me do my roll to see who's going to place their commands first. Germans, 10. Soviets, 9. So it's going to be the Soviets, since they rolled lower. Okay, so for the Soviets, well, this is going to be an interesting turn because I have the opportunity now to use this mortar to fire at this tank over here because my command tank is the observer. And now that my command tank can see this guy, I can call for indirect fire. It's something I haven't done before, so I'll have to read up on that. Right, but I know that in order for that to happen, the observer, in this case the command tank, has to have an overwatch command. So let me go over here to commands, overwatch, give him the overwatch. That means that the mortar is going to have the fire command. So that's 2 of my 7 commands. I'll give these guys a fire command. And these guys will share a fire command as well. So that's 4 commands total. And then up here, I'll give my full squad a fire command also. And the half squad is going to have no command. All right. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the Soviets, I think they covered. Oh, wait. I didn't give these guys a command. Well, since I know they can see him, might as well open up on him, try to get rid of him. I'm starting to think as I look at the way things are laid out here that maybe I should have been more cautious with the Soviets at the beginning of the scenario. I'll try that next time though. Okay, I think that's all for the Soviets. Now for the Germans, they get their 6 commands, only 3 of which can be move or short halt commands. What to do with them? Well, for this guy over here with the track damage, the only thing he can do is fire. So I'll let him fire. I have the choice of getting this guy to start moving off in this direction, but anywhere he goes off this hill, the part from behind it is going to be out in the open. So by the time he actually gets anywhere, it'll be the end of the game. So I'll have him fire as well. That's 2. And these guys, I really do want to get them over here. So if they do a short halt or fire, they'll be stuck in this area for another turn. So also have 7 turns to get over here, but they only have 3 hexes per move. This might be bad tactically, but I'm just going to have them move because I have the other guys here already firing, so I'll give them a move command. What should I do with these guys right here? I have the big threat of all the Soviet tanks on the hill, so I don't want to creep out to the open and get away from cover. If I try creeping up on the Soviets, which will take me a couple of turns, of course, they can do a close assault or they can shoot their bazooka at me if they're still around. I'm thinking I need to stay around here and deal with these guys somehow. Okay, I think I've already turned them once in this hex. I'm not sure, so I'm going to say I did. So they don't have enough movement points to get up on the hill if I turn them. Because it would cost me 1. Well, I guess I could. Because even if I turn them 2 hex sides, that would still just cost me 1 point for turning. Double check. Was it for clear? Clear. Yeah, it's just 1 point for turning. So if I turn them 2 hex sides, that's 1. And then I can move them up here. That's 3. Wait, what am I doing? It's not time for them to move yet. I'm just assigning commands. All right. I'm going to give them a move command. I got carried away. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. They get 2 more commands, and only 1 more can be a move or a short halt. All right, and I guess I'll have the half-track fire at this full squad. Might as well have this guy fire too. I was thinking if I had one of them fire, I could set the other guy up for an overrun attack in a following turn, but I'd have to move him down here. And I don't know if that's really a smart move because there's always the chance that he can get damaged entering the buildings before he can get in there, and then he'll be sitting duck. I'll try that in the future. So for now, they're just going to fire. So there's 2 commands, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it for the Germans. All right, so the next thing is to roll for initiative. And the higher initiative will be the first player. So here's for the Germans, 21. For the Soviets, 53. So this time, for a change, the Soviets are going to be the first player. For turn number 8, there's no air phase. So we move on to the combat phase. There's an indirect fire combat step here. So the first thing to do would be to announce that I'm conducting indirect, or I'm calling for indirect fire, right? So my CHQ here is calling for indirect fire from the mortar. So I'm announcing that. And before we can actually call this fire down, we have to check for indirect fire response. The attachment level of the firing unit and the type and unit grade of the observer unit determine the fire response. Right, so the attachment level refers to, as it says here, the degree that each indirect fire unit is dedicated to a specific formation, and consequently the expected chance of response. So all on-map indirect fire units are considered attached to their immediate parent formation, and only that formation. So we're dealing with a company, and of course the observer is the command headquarters, or the company headquarters for that formation. So they're considered attached. But to check for response, we have to go to this table here, called indirect fire response table. The observer level is company level. They are attached, so we're looking at a 5 that we're going to roll against. And then we have some modifiers. So that's not going to apply. The observer is not suppressed, damaged, or broken. The observer is hindered because he's looking through brew-up smoke to see this guy. And that's covered here, even though this is worded kind of funny. If brew-up smoke, barrage, and or fire originates in the observer unit's hex, passes through or enters the target point hex, including its own barrage, the modifier is -1. So I think this is supposed to say if brew-up smoke lies along the line of sight, including the originating hex and the target hex, but if it passes through an intervening hex, there's going to be -1 modifier. The modifier is applied for each unique occurrence of any and all types the line of sight starts from or... See, I think this got jumbled up here. This doesn't read correctly, but I'm going to interpret it to mean that if the line of sight passes through brew-up smoke, there is -1 modifier. Right, so going back to the indirect fire response, we have a 5 with a modifier of -1. So now we have to roll a d10. If what we roll, the modified roll, is equal to or greater than the fire response of 4, it's 5 -1, then the fire responds and impacts the target point. So let's roll d10. We rolled a 5. So that is greater than our modified fire response number of 4. So I know if we're using artillery, we're supposed to put a target marker over here. I'm not sure we need to with the mortar. I'm going to leave it off for now because this is the only indirect fire taking place. So the distance that we're firing from, the rule says you measure either from the observer or the firing unit, whichever one's further. So that would be from the mortar. That's a distance of 18. So let's take a look at our mortar card. It's the 82 millimeter mortar at a range of 18. Indirect fire, we have a GP factor of 4. Okay, and our Panzer 4H has a GP defense of 3A. So let's take a look over here. 4 offensive, 3 defensive. We're looking at 47 and 75. Let's see if we have any modifiers. Target vehicle is not moving. It's not a P-type vehicle. It is an A-type vehicle. 3A, it's armored. So it's -20. It's not in cover. This applies. Brew-up smoke. I don't think brew-up smoke applies in this case because this isn't direct fire, right? This is indirect. So I don't think brew-up is going to count for this one. Right, it's not Overwatch fire. Do we have an ammo limit? I believe there is with the bazooka or the 82 millimeter. Yes. So we have to roll against this 8. Right. If we roll higher than the 8, then we have to apply this ammo limit modifier of -10. All right, so let's roll. Roll the 3, so we're okay. So there's no -10 modifier. So that doesn't apply. So all we have so far is this -20. So the Soviet player rolls a D100. That's a 10. -20, of course, is going to be below 0. So that's going to be less than 47. So that's a miss. So he'll still be marked spot fired. We can leave that on there for now. And that covers the indirect fire combat step. So now we move on to the direct fire combat step, where the Soviets will fire first. And we're going to start up here with this infantry unit. In the building, we're going to fire our bazooka at this half track. So now we're down to here. The bazooka is an AP weapon. It does have a GP factor here, but it's AP weapon. At a range of 2, we have an AP factor of 20. An armor factor of 20. So we'll go to our AP table. And what range did we say? For the bazooka, it's medium range. A range of 2 is medium range. So we'll be here in the medium column. The target size, I believe the half track is -1. Yes, -1. Down to 45. He's in light cover, another -1. Shooter's not damaged, he's not suppressed. No group smoke, no Overwatch, no Just. No ammo limit, I believe. There's an ammo limit. Oh. Yeah, there's an ammo limit of 8. So we have to roll against that. We rolled a 4, we're okay. So no ammo limit. Right, so we're just looking at a -2. We got to roll 40 or less for a hit. 33, that is a hit. I don't think we use variable penetration for the bazooka round. So look for the hit location. It looks like we're striking this half track on the rear side. So rolling here. That's a 3. Turret rear, it doesn't have a turret. But there is a column for that on its card. It's a level shot from the rear side, turret rear 2. That is a penetration. So now we go over to here and we have to roll for damage. Roll again. 10. And that is a brew up. I think I did all that correctly. So let's see, this will go away. He goes to the tombstone box. All right, his fire counter can go away, and he's still marked spot fired. And since he didn't miss, we're not going to check for fire starting at the end of the turn. So actually looking at the rules here, it seems that maybe I should have checked for variable penetration. With the half check, it won't matter, but it says when using AP fire, so that would qualify in this case, right? The bazooka's AP fire. The thing is, the discrepancy is so large here. It's an AP factor of 20, and the half track only had a defense factor of 2, so checking variable penetration wouldn't have made a difference. But I guess if I were firing against a tank, I'd have to check. Okay, so that takes care of that combat. Let's move down here. What do we have? All right, I guess I'll start with these two T-34s down here. Under fire priority rules, they're going to have to shoot at the closest tanks, closest vehicle combat unit in their line of sight. I think they can only see, well, they can see these guys and they can see these guys. These guys are closer. Range of 12, that's range of 13. All right. So they're going to fire at the Panzer 4Hs. So the top guy is going to fire at the top guy, and the bottom guy is going to fire at the bottom guy. So I have my T-34s and 44s firing at the German Panzer 4H. Helps if I look here. There we go. Right, and we said it was a range of 12, which is going to be medium with an AP factor of 20. All right, we'll check for target size. The 4H is 0. Okay. Target is moving. It's -2. Not in cover. No short halt. Shooter's not damaged. Shooter's not broken. No overwatch, no adjust, no ammo limit. So we're looking at a 40 or less. And this is the top tank. That's a hit. We'll roll for variable penetration. It's a 6 and a 5. With a penetration factor of 20. 0. So it's just going to be 20. Let's see where we hit him. We'll do it the right way. We'll roll the D100. 5 for the location. And I believe we're shooting at their, what are we shooting at? Looks like the rear side. Okay. So rear with a location of 5, that's the hull rear. It's going to be a level shot. Level hull rear 4. That's a definite penetration. Damage is a 2, which doesn't sound promising. It's just a damage. For the top guy. Okay. Now for the second guy. Same numbers, got to roll 40 or less. That's a hit. Roll for variable penetration. 8 and a 2. Let's see, 8 is +1, a 2 is -2, so that's a -1, so we're down to a penetration factor of 20. Still firing at the hull rear. Level shot, hull rear, still a penetration. Well, we don't know it's a hull rear. I got to do this first. 8 and 4. So the 8 for the location is going to be, yes, whole rear. And damage is going to be a 4. And 4 is also just a damage. So they're both damaged. Okay. So that can go away. They're both marked fired, spot fired. So next we'll do these two T-34s here. And they can only see this guy. So that's who they're going to fire at. And that's going to be at a range of 11. And this is also Panzer 4H. All right, so in the medium column, target size is 0. Target is not moving. I don't think. I don't remember. No, he's not moving. Not in cover. Shooter's not damaged. None of this applies. So we're just in the medium column with 50 or less. 95, that's a miss. That's for the top guy. Now for the bottom guy. 43, that's a hit. So AP factor of 20. Variable penetration 2 and 0. Or 2 and 10. 10 is a plus 2, so that's 22. And 2 is a minus 2. So we're just back down to 20. Looks like we're shooting at the rear side. So we'll roll for location and damage. It'll be a 0 for the location because we rolled a 3. Rear side 10. That's a track hit. All right, he's already damaged, but now he has a track hit, so now he just can't move. And since that is a track hit, we don't go any further with the damage. All right, these guys are marked spot fired. And that takes care of that combat. Okay, if nothing else, these guys are pinned to these hilltops here. They can't chase us down, so we can move out of their way here shortly. Next turn, maybe, depending on what the Germans do. All right, so we have 2 guys left to fire. They're shooting through brew-up smoke. They're both suppressed, and one of them is damaged. But they're going to fire at, well, who's closer? Let's see. That's a 9. That's a 9. So let me roll a die. If it's odd, they'll shoot at this guy. If it's even, they'll shoot at this guy. Even, so they're shooting at him over here. A range of 9. There's only one guy, right? Yep, there's only one guy. Okay, we'll do the top guy first. Our top guy over here is suppressed. All right, at a range of 9, that's still medium range, AP factor of 20. So the medium column, target size is 0, target is not moving, target's not in cover, no short halt. The shooter, this shooter is not damaged, but he is suppressed, -5. And he's firing through brew-up smoke, -2, that's a 15. No overwatch, no ammo limit. So we're looking at 15 or less required to hit. That's a miss. All right, now for the second guy. The second guy is damaged and suppressed, and he's shooting through brew-up smoke. Let's see how that works out. in the medium column. Damage -3. Suppressed -5. Brew up smoke -2. He's got a roll of 1. And he rolled a 100 as far as you can get from it. So they both missed. Okay. So now they'll both be marked spot fired. Why won't you mark? I guess I gotta do them separately. Let's see. There we go. Spot fired. All right. Anybody else? They've already fired. They fired. They fired. They have fired. And they fired. So I think that's it for the Soviets. Let me double check. Yep, no more shooting from the Soviets. So now it's time for the Germans. Guess we'll start up here again. We'll start with the half track. He's going to fire at the full squad in the wooden building. So that's at a range of 3, short range. It has a GP factor of 2. My infantry squad has a GP factor of 2, but they are in... See, the building is light cover, so that's 4. Plus 2 because they're in full cover, so that's 6. So we'll go to our table here. GP factor offensive 2, defensive 6. We're looking at 69 and 95. The target's not a vehicle. Shooter's not damaged. He's not suppressed, not broken. Does he have an ammo limit? No. No Overwatch. Okay. Right, so it's just going to be a straight roll. So we're looking between 69 and 95. That's a 58. That is a miss. So we'll mark him spot fired. And that covers his fire. Is anybody else shooting? Yes. I guess everybody who's left is firing at him because he's the closest one, or firing at them. So here's my Stug. He's going to fire at the top T-34 here. And he's at a range of 9. So he'll be in the medium range, AP factor of 19. Target size. 0. Okay. Target is not moving. He is in light cover. He's in the scrub. Shooter is damaged. Oh, he just has track damage. That doesn't count as damaged. Okay. So it's just -1 for light cover so far. Brew up smoke -2. We're down to 35. No Overwatch. Does he have an ammo limit? No. So 35 or less is the 2-hit. And that's a miss. And he's already marked spot fired. Okay. What's next? All right. Now I have this guy here. He's going to fire at the same tank, the guy in the top. He's also at a range of 9. This is a Panzer 4H. So range of 9. He's medium distance. AP factor of 19. So target size is 0. Target is not moving. Target's in light cover, -1. We have the brew up smoke, -2. And the shooter is damaged, -3. 1, 2, 3. So 20 or less is what we're looking at to hit. And he missed. Okay. So he's got a spot fire marker on. That's good. All right, I think that covers all the firing from the Germans. Now comes movement. We're up to the movement phase. So the second player goes first. That would be the Germans. I think I decided earlier that these guys here were going to turn in the hex for a turn cost of 1. And then they're going to go up to here. That's going to cost 2 movement points for a total of 3. So they're moved. They have the spot move counter. All right, these guys here are also going to move, but they're both damaged. That means they only have half their movement rounded down, so they can only go 1 hex. 1 hex. And then I'm going to turn them so they're not tail end on to the Soviets like they were before. Okay, I think that's all the movement for the Germans. Are any of the Soviets moving? No. So we skip the air phase. That brings us to the adjustment phase. No pivoting taking place, no turrets being adjusted. Do I want to adjust anybody's full cover? I think at the moment, no. Adjust or remove suppressions. All right, so for that we have to come to the suppression recovery table. We have some modifiers here for our suppression recovery die roll. So I guess I'll start with these guys over here. My half squad that's suppressed, they don't have a command other than no command, so that's not going to apply. They're not under fire because they couldn't be seen. So there's no modifier for them. They're seasoned, so their recovery roll is going to be from 1 to 60. And they made it, so their suppression marker comes off. All right, then we have these 2 guys here. Now they both came under fire. No, just the top guy came under fire. I should have. I'll have to remember to do this in the future. I need to remember to mark him with, where's that counter? This thing here under fire. So just the top guy came under fire. Nobody got around to shooting at the second guy. All right. So he had a fire command. So that's going to be plus 20 to the die roll. He was under fire, so that's plus 30. And we still have to roll between 1 and 60. So we'll roll the die at 30. That's a 50. That is between 1 and 60. So his suppression comes off. And this guy in the bottom, he did have a fire command. Didn't he? How come he didn't fire? Maybe he did. He must have fired. Yeah. Yeah, he did. He's got a spot fire marker. So he had command other than no command, so it's plus 20. He didn't come under any fire. So 30 plus 20 is 50. That is between 1 and 60, so his suppression comes off as well. All right. Do we have anybody else that's suppressed? I don't believe so. Okay. Adjust or remove morale. Not using that. Remove all the command markers. And we're not checking for fires because the criteria haven't been met. Nobody has taken any new territory, so we're not placing control markers. So that brings us to the end turn step. So that's the end of turn number 8. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes that time around. And hopefully you'll join me for turn number 9 when we come back. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.